What is happening, friends? I hope you are doing well, and welcome back to another powerful episode of Marketing by Design. And this week, we have a very special episode because I was recently a guest on the one and only Marketers Exit podcast by Tim and Tass. The Marketer's Exit is a show by Tass Bober and Tim Davidson, all about what it's like to do freelance and solo marketing as your own career. If you're an in-house marketer and has ever wondered what life is like on the other side, we're talking about the real things, the transparent things, what it's like to do your own thing, the stresses that come with it, and also whether or not it may be for you. This is the perfect podcast for you to listen to. Tass is the owner of the Scroll Lab, which is a landing page consultancy, and she actually lives like 10 minutes from me here in Worthington, Ohio, so we became fast friends. And Tim Davidson is the owner of B2B Riz, one of my favorite business names out there, by the way. Shout out to Tim. And he is a LinkedIn ads consultant for B2B SaaS. In this episode, we talk all about my own freelance journey, some of the early days of getting started, the networking events that I cut my teeth on as a solo marketer, and how I slowly scaled MMG Design into what it is currently. For those of you who have been following my story for a while, this is actually a side of my shelf that I don't share that often. And I'm super excited to air it on this podcast for the Marketing by Design audience. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. If you're a marketer here in Columbus, check out the Columbus Marketing Jobs newsletter. I send every curated job opening for hybrid remote roles here in Columbus in the newsletter to your inbox every week for free. That'll be linked below. And if you're a healthcare marketer, my team and I just did a 60+ hour breakdown of 100 B2B healthcare websites, assessing over 50 data points and putting all of our insights into one document just for you. That'll be linked below as well. Appreciate you guys tuning in this week. Without further ado, please welcome me.
Welcome to The Marketer's Exit, the podcast for marketers curious about freelancing, starting a side hustle, or exploring what life could look like beyond the 9-to-5. I'm Tass Bober. I left the in-house marketing world to build a landing page consultancy, and now I work 3 days a week while making the same and sometimes more than I did in my full-time job.
And I'm Tim Davidson. I stepped out of the agency grind to start my own LinkedIn ads consultancy. More flexibility, better work-life balance, and plenty of time to sip cocktails on a beach. Just kidding, I live nowhere near a beach. But it's still way, way better. We come from different sides of the marketing world. Me from agency, Tass from in-house, but we both got out.
And now we're pulling back the curtain on what it's really like to go solo. The smooth parts, the scary parts, and the stuff that no one puts in the LinkedIn posts and only in the group chat.
If you're thinking about freelancing, building a side hustle, or just curious what life looks like on the other side, this is your front row seat.
Welcome to The Marketer's Exit.
Yeah, episode 58.
Oh, is it?
No, I'm close.
No, it's not. I was like, wait, what?
What are we like, 17?
Yeah, I don't know. But we have a special guest today, Andy.
Milligan.
That's how we intro, I guess. I'm kidding. We just wing it and it sounds terrible. But we were just talking about Tim moving into his new house. He is wainscoting, so you know he's big time now.
What are you saying? What's
the board and batten thing that you have, the half wall thing that you have behind you? That's called wainscoting.
Why?
Do I need to? That's just what it's called.
Why isn't it just like half? Why isn't it just half wall?
That's just the thing. But you know what? This must be the new house episode because Andy also just bought a new house in Claytonville.
Look at that thing. It's huge.
He's at a co-hatch right now.
This is it. Yeah. This is my flex. Just putting it on the background here.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, I'm just in the upstairs of my mansion. Don't mind me. Webflow websites are doing really well. So that's where we are. Are you going to keep your walls brown, Tim?
I just painted the old house because there's, and I'll maybe put a picture here. There's so many holes in the wall and I had to like patch everything and paint it. You cannot pay me to paint again. I cannot stand painting. Like it's ridiculous. I don't know if I can do that.
I love painting. I've painted every room in my house
so
except the loft area because I couldn't reach.
You like it?
I love painting. Oh, pay me. I'll come to you.
I will.
I will come paint. It'll make for great content.
It'd be cheaper than getting someone here. I mean, these people, they don't even pick up the phone anymore. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I got two quotes. I have a relatively small house. It's a 4-bed, 2-bath. It's like 1,200 square feet. And the first quote we got was like $3,000 for a contractor to repaint everything.
For the whole house?
Yes.
That's not bad.
Inside only, interior.
Pay you 800, Taz, so that's perfect.
500.
Okay, no, first of all, okay, 3,000 isn't bad. First of all, I
Sounds
got
pretty
only the
bad.
loft area and one area in a hallway painted for $1,300. So, and that was years ago.
You just told me you loved it.
I couldn't reach that area. I said I literally painted every room except the loft.
I gotcha. Letters.
Anywho, I digress. We'll talk about the painting quote later and the gaps in the home improvement market with demand flows. But today we have Andy. I want to give a background on Andy because Tim doesn't know. So this is new for Tim too, right?
Yeah, maybe I know, maybe I don't. I do my research.
Okay. So Andy, you and I, how did we meet? We met, you reached out to me on LinkedIn, said we're both in Columbus-ish because you weren't really in Columbus at the time. And you said, I have a podcast. I want you on. Let's do it in person. And I was like, yay. I never get to do in-person podcasts, but I didn't know the hassle you went through to make sure the in-person podcast happened. It was really sweet. I got all decked up. I just show up at this place. He is like trying to set it up desperately in this little podcast studio. You were so concerned about it. And I was just chilling. I was just happy to shower and leave my house. And I was just chilling, met a couple of people, made some obnoxious jokes as I do. And then we had a grand old time, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how it went. No more context is needed. There was no technical issues, nothing, the best podcast of your life. I will say too, I got a little bit catfished because that was the first time I'd ever recorded, because we recorded in a co-working space. That's not like the one that I'm in. They're kind of competitors to the good one that I'm in right now here in Ohio. But they made it seem like it was a seamless process. Like I got totally sold by the landing page. And I got there like 3 hours early because they're like, man, this is going to be perfect. I've got the camera, I've got the laptop. The mics didn't work. There was nobody there to help me. The lady at the front desk was so nice. She's younger than I am. Had no idea what the hell she was doing. And, did a great job, at her job, but that just wasn't her job to manage the podcast studio. So I learned a lot about that day about just Rode mics and Riverside and, but the good news was that I curated a great discussion and I rescued it the best I could.
You did great. I mean, I was just unaware of probably the extent of which your issues were. And then we were trying to find the right seating and stuff. But I think the thing that intrigued me about our meeting and why you're on our podcast now, and unbeknownst to Tim, because I don't really tell him anything. We just do this thing where we just show up with random ideas and stuff, and the other one just goes with it. But the reason that I liked Andy and I was like, this is great, he would be good for the marketer's exit, is after Dom, Andy's younger than Dom, right? And you're very, very open about your age, aren't you?
I'm 35. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, what I liked was I was ambitious, I think, in my early 20s, but I don't think I had the focus that you did, the seriousness. I mean, you were out here. How many episodes of your own podcast have you done now?
So last week was 165, I believe. So weekly for the past 165 weeks.
Yeah. And I think it was, yeah.
Hold on. All right. So Dom's 28. So I'm assuming you're 26.
No, Dom is 26.
No, 35.
Dom's 26.
Yes.
Well, he looks way older. Bad older.
It's all the Italian hair, I think.
Yeah, it's his beard too.
It's facial hair. That's what it is.
Well, I could say 35, but I could also say 25 and be right. I think. Yeah, you have both, because he kind of goes both ways.
Yeah, I am 25, but it's good to know I could do both though. So I can.
And he's also extremely tall, so I think that helps him in person. Okay, but
by the way, one thing real quick. You said last time we met at Java Central, you said I had lifter's legs, and I haven't stopped thinking about that since because it made me so happy. But yeah,
I came home and I told my husband, I was like, man, from the time I did the interview with Andy, which was last fall or something like that. And then he started lifting, and I walk into Java Central. I just met with him last week or 2 weeks ago to talk about a potential event in Columbus. And I'm like, okay, Andy, someone's been hitting the gym. And I was looking at those lifter's legs with your little shorts over there. And obviously that's the best thing you could ever tell a guy who lifts is dude, your legs look really good. So I also knew what I was doing with that, But yeah, you beefed out a lot. So on top of being young, ambitious, goal-oriented, and all of that good stuff with your work, you're also doing that on your health, which I can't even say that about myself at 25. I was too busy effing around. And so, but a couple of things that caught my attention when we had first met was more of the conversations we were having outside of what was being recorded, because you were talking about me a lot during that. But after we had recorded, I was like, tell me about yourself, Andy, because I'm very intrigued by all of this. And then you told me, one, how young you are. And I think the standard story we tend to hear, no, I'm saying this is a good thing. You're like nodding, like, don't tell people how young I am. No, but the standard story that we hear is our story. Oh, somebody was in-house. We were in-house forever. We got burnt out. We left, whatever. And you're like, F it. I'm going to start that now. I'm going to go out. You're doing the thing. You started this podcast. You've been doing combined. You've done more episodes than like us on 2 of our podcasts. We are like old people who are so late to the game. And I feel like you were so early on to catch on to that. And then the other component, which I really like, is the ones we usually interview are like, oh, I built myself up on LinkedIn, built this like B2B community. But what you've done is really leaned into the local community. I mean, even when we met at Java, you were like, oh yeah, like the AMA here and this local person, and do you know this person? And that, like, you were so connected locally and you made that happen yourself. So I want to hear all about that. And I thought that that would be an interesting take for someone who's like, what if I don't have 15 years of in-house experience? Like, what if I just want to be a career entrepreneur? Can I do it? What do I need to do? Why don't you start with telling us a little bit about yourself, what you do right now, and then we're going to get into, backstory, your pricing offers, that kind of stuff. But just give everybody who's listening kind of the background on who you are, what you do right now.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, I guess I'll start kind of at the beginning. So I actually started in-house, as you mentioned. When I was in college, I played college golf, and there was this like student-led marketing organization that kind of got me into marketing. Like, I was always focused on playing golf. I went to school for PGM, which one of 18 schools in the country offer is professional golf management. So I never done anything with marketing, but when I was in college, a bunch of the athletes started this group called the Oiler 10, so the University of Fenway. And that's when I first started doing design, built my first website, got to work with local businesses. And we did that in exchange for donations to the university, which is really cool. I imagine now with NIL, they're probably able to make a ton of money now, which is great timing. But yeah, I went after that. I got my first job after graduation, found the first job in marketing that I could find, which was in Marysville, which TAS is pretty close to the Columbus area. And I worked there for 6 months, and I was just as a graphic designer. And after 6 months, I faced a layoff. So it was kind of a seasonal position, but it was presented as a full-time opportunity. So I went full on into freelancing after that. And I kind of started freelancing while I was at the in-house role. That's how I started going to a bunch of local networking events, meeting a lot of local marketers. But when I was laid off from the agency, I had one paying client at $1,200 a month, and I never looked for a full-time job after that. I just went full on into freelancing. And in the beginning, that's like, to your point about meeting people locally, there are so many. Columbus is a good area. It's a very dense geographical city with a lot of really good people here, and we have a lot of mutuals. But I would always encourage people when they start freelancing, if you are part of a city, to look locally. And even if you're in a suburb like I lived in Springfield for the last little over 2 years before buying a house here. Like, always start with meeting people locally, like getting coffee, following up, and then staying in touch on LinkedIn. That has led to like 80% of our business comes from referrals. And if you meet someone in person, you really reinforce that relationship. And I can't speak highly enough of that. But yeah, in the beginning, freelancing really was not glamorous, being 22, it was like, I don't have a ton of relationships, don't have a ton of experience. So you really, I had like saying yes to anything, anyone that would, like, in the beginning, I did like content. I did like Squarespace websites. I did like Instagram editing, video editing. Like, I did just anything that anyone had a budget for, a lot of local businesses, things like that. And I had always built on this tool called Webflow, which is like marketers know this is like a designer's web development platform. And I started building all of my client sites on there. And about a year in, we got a really good referral string. And the healthcare niche for doing the Webflow work. And since then, I mean, I've been working with a developer for a little over a year, trying to build it into more of a micro agency rather than just a consultancy, and slowly learn like a lot of the stuff you guys talk about here, like delegating work, charging more, like systematizing, because we're still very small, and I take a lot of, you know, the stuff I learned here and apply it there too. But yeah, it's been, so now it's, you know, it's 2025. I was laid off, or now it's 2026. I was laid off February 1st of 2024. And actually one thing I did start doing was every month since then, I've posted a video on YouTube of like my monthly finances. So like profit loss, things that worked that month, things that didn't, and just being very transparent. Another guy locally named Jay Klaus, he really inspired me to do that.
Yes.
Yeah,
You can't just drop out of the locally Jay Klaus. He's like a huge creator, but yeah, he lives in Columbus.
Yeah, he's been on the podcast, but yeah, he's like been a big source of inspiration for me. And I love like the businesses that, and that's like the podcast has been, I've been doing that since I was in the agency. Like the first episode was a designer from Clintonville. He's a really good friend of mine, Jeremy Slagle. He's like a very well-known and like micro niche famous graphic designer. I literally interviewed him in the break room, and my supervisor did not like that at all. So I was like, fuck these people, you know, like I want to keep doing this. So pardon my language, but yeah. And that's just, the podcast has been a big through line. That's how Tass and I got in touch. And it's very helpful, like when you are like just getting started, to have a better mechanism of business development than just like, hey, do you want to get on a call? You know, like I am whenever I view something as like forced interaction or forced sales, I'm a very awkward person, as Tass can attest to. So like podcasting was a very good form of biz dev for me. And people are much more likely to say yes to a podcast rather than just like, hey, you want to get on a 30-minute Zoom call, you know? So yeah, that's led us to where we are now.
Okay, let's go back to the YouTube thing though. How well do those do? Because people love the transparency.
Because I obviously just looked it up clearly.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
And
Andy is consistent. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now we'll go with it. 439 videos. Andy Milligan. So if you're looking it up, it's Andy Milligan, MMG Design. Because when you look up Andy Milligan, there's some like weird professor or something that comes up. Look for Andy Milligan. I actually typed in Andy Milligan Webflow and it came up.
Okay.
Consistent, man.
Okay.
Like 439 videos, just constant. Like this is even just 2 weeks ago. He's got like 8 in the last 3 weeks or so.
What?
Consistent. I mean, this is YouTube thumbnails are all there. He's got the podcast interviews, which is one thing I would know is because he's doing in-person podcasts. That's so much cooler. Like I know we try to do podcasts, but like it's so much cooler in person.
It is so much cooler.
That's so cool.
Even when you don't know what you're doing, it's a lot better.
So how often do you post your financials and the videos? You said
every month. So I moved it to another channel because it's started to build some of I started another channel called Andy the Marketer, because it's not the best because I want the main channel to be more client facing stuff, like where you display expertise and like screen recordings of me at like 9:00 at night, like going over my Monarch Money dashboard on the best per was advised to me. So yeah, I moved those to another channel, and I still do collabs with the main one. But yeah, that's like, and I don't enjoy those, to be completely honest, but it's kind of it's a conviction thing. And now it's like a streak. So it's been like 26 straight months. And I will say like the consistency piece is a lot easier when you do it for the purpose of making content for LinkedIn. Like every day there's going to be a LinkedIn post. So usually like a podcast is already a YouTube video. And sometimes I'll record longer form stuff and then just use that as LinkedIn content and just post like the longer version on YouTube. But yeah, dude, consistency. Those early podcast episodes, there was a lot.
Obviously, we post videos on YouTube. You and I touched upon this just barely in person. So I don't know why we didn't talk about it further, but you were kind of asking, hey, who do you use to edit your videos? And stuff? Who do you use to edit your videos? You're clearly posting 400 and God knows how many. Do you outsource that work? Do you try to do it yourself because you're like, I'm going to do it myself. This is my thing. How does that work?
So until 3 months ago, I did everything. And this is probably like, I do have an editing background, which is a good thing. I've used Adobe Premiere Pro since like my early days of college. I had an internship where I would use it heavily. Like one of my internships was at this golf fitness facility, and I edited 30 hours of training videos, like fitness training videos in Premiere Pro. So I did enjoy that. And that's what I do on my weekends, because I don't have a lot of the forcing functions of balance that it may be typical for someone who has a family or things like that. So I did enjoy the video, but like the first 120 episodes before Riverside, I know I talk shit about Riverside all the time, even like this recording experience, but it has made it so much easier. Like beforehand, I'll give you guys some ball knowledge here. StreamYard lets you record for free, and it lets you store 5 videos, but at least back when I would use it. So I'd use the free version of StreamYard, and I would record the interview, would store it online. I'd download it onto a local disk and edit on Premiere Pro, and then export it and publish it out on our channels. But the free version of StreamYard, it has a watermark, but if you like compress the image to the middle and change the layout, you can then just like zoom it in and crop out the watermark. So I did that for over 100 episodes, and would go back and delete. If I was like every 5, I would just delete the last one before that. And then Riverside, and then the editor made it even more exponentially easier. So yeah, a lot of like fixing my problems by throwing my own time at them was a big case early on, for sure.
I want to give you a compliment, and it might not sound like a compliment, but I promise you it's a compliment.
Oh God.
Good.
And this is how I know you're going to win, because you are very consistent, and a lot of people would have quit because some of your videos have like 3 views. Like a lot of the videos have like 3 to 7 views. And I know you're going to win because you're continuing to do that after these 2-3 years. And don't get me wrong, some of them have you have some that have like 5,500 views. It's not even about the views, but like the consistency is unfathomable. I love it.
Unmatched.
And I also know and I say that also because I know you also post on LinkedIn. You also run a business. Like you're doing everything you can, like these other things. And it's amazing.
It's that age old saying of, you're not going to kind of outrun someone who's just so optimized for distribution. You're like, I don't give a crap whether 3 people or 5,500 people do it. You have that conviction. Like, I've set this goal for myself. I'm going to do it. I don't give a shit what people think. And I think that sometimes even Tim and I, we might lack that. I mean, how many times, Tim, have you posted a video, you're like, I didn't like that, and you'll repost it later because you're like, it didn't get enough views or something like that? Or Tim and I'll see like a 5 streak of Notorious B2B YouTube, even though Spotify is probably our biggest channel. I'll see it on YouTube because that's more, everybody can see the numbers there. And I'm like, hey, our last 4 videos got only like 20 something views. Like, should we change the format? Like, I'm ready to change it up. But you were just like, I'm just going to stay the course because something is going to hit, and that's okay. And if it doesn't hit, that's okay. I'm just going to keep doing it because I'm also doing it for me. And you have this notion of like, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the notion we miss too.
Yes. And I will say too, like in B2B especially, it's like if you get 10 views on a video, and you have to like, it's hard in the beginning because you haven't had this thing I'm about to explain, you haven't had it reinforced yet. But if 10 people watch a video and one of them becomes a client, it's like, that's all that matters, Yeah. And so you just have to like detach from the typical vanity metrics. I had a guy on the podcast, shout out to Vincent Grippy. He's been one of our really good like referral partners, but he's based in New York. I went and visited him last year. He has like beautiful YouTube videos, like incredible. And he's so funny on camera, which I'm not. I'm so like flamboyant and just hilarious to watch. His videos get like 10 views. And he's like, I don't give a rip if it gets those amount of views, because someone literally watched the video, reached out to me, sent me an email, and they're a client now. And I can take I get cooked for, even on YouTube. Some people be like, oh, you have more videos than subscribers. Like, what's this guy have to say? Someone said that.
YouTube's brutal.
I was like, bro, I don't care. It did sting a little bit, and it still kind of does, but it's like, so.
I know that one. That was brutal.
And I bet you that person has not posted a single freaking video. It's always nothing that always want to hate. They do nothing. So I always pay no attention to that at all. Okay. Of course you do.
That's the funny thing. You get 100 comments, one bad one. That's when you stick up. You're stuck.
I know. That's
so annoying.
Humans have it's called like the negative bias. We have the negative bias where we you could get 1,000 compliments. The one insult will stay with you forever.
Yep. I still remember that guy. I remember his exact name. I won't say it here, but I do.
Yeah.
I remember.
I'll find it.
Yeah, I bet you he's a nobody. Even if you did say his name and we looked him up, he's done nothing except hate on people on the internet. It's the same shit on Reddit. You go to a trolls post, like profile, it's all just trolling. That's all they do, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you decided, you're like, okay, this company, whatever, some of it was them deciding with the layoff. You then decided, you were like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because I enjoy doing this regardless of the vanity metrics and stuff, which I call that relative sample size with B2B, where if for a B2C product, you might need millions with a good conversion rate, and B2B, you need 10 views and one real good ICP, and you're making thousands of dollars a month.
Yep.
So I'm totally with you there. That's something I preach to my clients as well. Now, given that was your first job, you decided, F this, you have this $1,200 client. Did you even have a nest egg or any safety net outside of that going on? Or you're like, I'm just going to risk it for the biscuit?
Yeah, really good question. So I talked to your friend about this recently, like the early days. I don't know why I didn't look for another job. I immediately just started posting on LinkedIn and started doing outreach on LinkedIn.
Wow.
So I'm a big fan of this. I think even you and I talked about it in our interview of like this Tim Ferriss exercise. It's called fear setting. And at the time too, like I was single on my own, just graduated. So it seemed a lot more like when you get laid off, it seems like the world is ending. Like my layoff story is so good. Like, and by good, I mean bad. But like I was laid off I was the only person laid off that day, 60 person open floor office plan. So I went around to like everybody and said goodbye. It was a really cool story of like, just like, sniffling and trying to hold back tears and stuff. So it was a great day. But there's a really cool story about that because one of the people whose phone numbers I got when I went back in and said goodbye to everyone, they ended up becoming a client 2 years later. So we just did a site for them, and that project actually paid me more than my entire time at Rudis, which is the company.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I had a lot of spite because I was like, which isn't the best emotion to be driven by, but in the early days, it can be very powerful. So I just really went full in, started getting paying clients. I knew the minimum amount I needed to make, which was rent plus, a couple $100 a month for utilities, groceries, things like that. And I had probably $10,000 saved up, like I said. So, I mean, it wasn't, the most glamorous living situation, but I mean, the good news is you can literally go to my YouTube channel and see how much I've made every single month for the last 2 years. And that happened in and of itself. I'm so glad I did that because it teaches you objectivity and separating like yourself from the business. Because especially like for a lot of solos, it's like a good day at work is a good day in life, a bad day at work. Like you tie too much of your identity into the business. So having some habit where you like track profit loss and you can be more objective about the decisions, like where to reinvest, like actually looking at profit, things like that. If I hadn't started doing that, I would be, in a spiral of tears more so than I already am. But yeah, that's, slow and unglamorous is how I got started for sure.
I'm always interested in this. What did the LinkedIn outreach look like? Or was that to just people you knew, like the example of the past colleague? Yeah.
So I would usually start just locally. Like I said, people that were in marketing, people that were local. Oh my God. So there's a lot of in-person local small business events. There's a thing called Amp Spirit, which I really cut my teeth on, which is basically like an in-person referral group for small business owners. So, and it's like very common here in the Midwest. There's one in Dublin, there's two in Dublin, one in Gahanna. There's like 8 or 9 of them here in the Midwest.
These old suburbs of Columbus, just for
and the format for each of those is there's like a group gets put together. There's one in Marysville too. There's like one person from each like business owner category per chapter. So there's like a realtor, a marketing person, which is what I was, a tradesperson, a roofer, a financial advisor, like healthcare. There's like all the people in like a established service provider niche. So that way there's no like competitors. And you are like incentivized to leave referrals. So you literally go around, you have default format of every meeting. And I did this every Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m. I did this every Tuesday for over a year. And I got probably 2 or 3 leads from it. But I made friends with the people that were there, which was a big reason why I stayed. But anyway, you pass around a bucket in the beginning. Every person talks for like, the format is every one person has a presentation every week and you rotate, but everyone goes around and, makes an ask, they make a referral, and you put your referrals in a bucket. So that's kind of like how I got better at like articulating what I did. There's also BNI, which is Business Networking International, I think it's what it's called. And that's another in-person networking group. So sharing referrals there. And I'll be honest, I did kind of lean into the young, like being young, people kind of are easier on you. And you can be like kind of like the young cool guy. So I kind of leaned into that for all it was worth in the beginning, because I think people were like a little bit more soft, because I just had no idea what the hell I was doing, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's what hard looked like back then. And I'm glad I did that in the beginning, even though my time would have been much better spent like on LinkedIn or doing other forms of marketing, that like even in the podcast, because that's going to be a long-term vision. But yeah, that's how I got started in the early days, was start with people local.
I think the thing that's admirable here is the sheer amount of hustle. Like so Tim had a little bit of a foundation, just being the guy that cuts fruit on LinkedIn, and people knew him and he was writing about it, and he was, while he was in-house, it was a fluke that I ended up doing what I was doing, writing on LinkedIn, all of these things. It's easy to sit here and give advice and stuff when a lot of our stuff is like inbound. It makes it sound like it's really easy, because we were doing it probably not with the notion of we'll go out on our own. For you walking and you're like, I am not going to look for another job. I'm just going to go all in on this. And you had that notion of whatever it takes. And I love that, because I don't think I would have had the gall. I was a sales rep for 3 years at one of my jobs, and it was the worst job. I was terrible at it, and it was the worst job together, because I sucked at the cold calling. I sucked at the, like, let me insert myself and go to all these places. As extroverted as I was, I always felt like weird doing that. And just like, I admire your gumption there, because I don't know. Would you, Tim, be doing like half the stuff that Andy talked about, giving presentations to a referral group every 6 weeks or whatever? Like, that's insane. And you were part of multiple chapters?
Yeah. So I would go at least once a week. I've been to a few of them, but I would say too, it's like, I think you guys would, because it's like circumstances place demands on yourself. And it felt like hard work, but it was also a sense of purpose too, because I was documenting a lot of it. I was posting on YouTube, I was posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So like, I think it gets reinforcing to some extent, but I do appreciate that. I think you guys could though. It does make you nervous though to do that.
I'm sure. Okay. So in the beginning, now you're talking about like, okay, because Tim and I talk a lot about niche versus general. We talk about, what you're offering. You weren't always Webflow for healthcare. Like, I feel like that's an evolution in the beginning, where you're like, I have $1,200. I need to make more money. At that point, were you kind of like, I'm just going to take whatever. If someone comes to me and they want to work with me, are you just taking it?
In the beginning,
what were you
offering? In the beginning, yeah. It's a tough thing, because I am so big. I had to interview man, myth, legend Pierre. It was about 1.5 years ago. He's a mutual friend of ours. Like, it's a tough thing when people ask me this now, because I'm like, yes, you have to niche. It makes it so much easier. It's the way to go. Increasingly now, but like in the beginning, like you don't really have a foundation to make that decision on. So I'm glad that I went through that struggle period and did everything for everyone, to like, then that led to, Matt, who introduced us to Jeff out west, who ended up doing like 8 projects together. And that's how, when we had a foundation, a good portfolio of like healthcare work that we could really use as case studies, got really good testimonials. That makes the decision a little bit easier. It's still a vulnerable place to be in. But man, like and also like you guys use the example too, if you're in-house, start selling what you did in-house on a freelance basis. That gives you a frame of reference too. So I think it depends on where you're coming from. And also just like ask for help. Try and be as objective as possible. I have a mentor who owns a web agency in Atlanta. I just asked him, I said, like, what's the move here? Like, knowing everything you know about me, is this a good decision? And he just told me, he's like, what do you have to lose? You know, like you either continue down this road and you can be a specialist generalist, like your niche in a service offering, but not for an audience, or you can really commit. And I have a track record of committing, and it's been proof. I'm glad I did.
Wow. When you finally, if you decide to like get married and stuff, you're going to have like, your spouse is going to have the most committed partner. Like, this is insane. Like, that is, I don't think we've talked to now a few people, right, Tim? I don't think anyone's had this amount of consistency and commitment at this stage.
'Cause he's young. That's all it is.
Oh,
He's
stop
young.
it. By the time Andy is 37, like, it's going to be insane. The sheer amount of content that he's already put out and some of those things that have been built up. Okay, so
Well, that's
right
only
now,
2 years away. It's only 2 years
What?
away. So that's only 2 years away.
Yeah, just like 2 years, 2 or 3 years. Okay, so you're project based because obviously it's website related. Do you also do retainer type stuff? What do you like? What are your offers? You know, tell people that, because I'm sure they'll want to hear. Yes, the niche, which happened eventually. You were kind of doing probably all projects. You started getting retainer money. Everyone gets a little like crazy when they get the retainer money. What does that look like for you in terms of your offering?
Yeah, so this is actually something that we're currently working through. I'm working with an exited Webflow founder to basically help me position deeper for this audience. But yeah, we're about 70% project based and 30% recurring based, which puts a little bit more, like for web, it's a very elegant offer to have a project based where you build the website, really make a deep relationship with the team, the marketer, the founder, whoever's the point of contact, and then either have a recurring maintenance, SEO, or AEO, what people are calling it now, as, you know, a recurring partnership, and also kind of bundle in maintenance with that. So, I mean, that's a big part of the transition currently, is not putting as much pressure on getting project-based work, which we make enough now to where we're mostly a project-based business, and we charge enough to where we can make that work. But it puts a lot of pressure on sales and biz dev. And I want to lean into like longer form things like content that aren't as predictable on the lead gen front, but it's like a slower stoking flame. So like, yeah, I always recommend having some kind of a recurring offer. Even businesses like Fletch or Riley from Oratory that are 100% project based. Like, you really got it. That's a very rare case to only be able to be project based. Like, you have to have a really good top of funnel and a really fast sales process too. Like something.
I'm in that bucket with the completely. I mean, in one of the episodes we talk about that. What is Tassa's biggest problem? It's always going to be keeping a steady flow of inbound leads coming, because the leads die, my business dies. And funnily enough, my reoccurring has nothing to do with landing pages. It's all the brand deals. Mm-hmm. Those end up being my recurring retainer, which is weird, not to be expected, but that's just the kind of stuff. So it's always going to be a good investment into brand and doing those things. Hopefully the podcasts and the sponsorships there can be recurring whenever that decides to hit. But I think, ultimately everyone plans to. I always tell everyone that Tim is actually sitting at the sweet spot where he has a niche service. It is retainer based because there is a management aspect to it. That's where people want to be, so they can move into new houses with double French doors or whatever he showed us earlier. Yeah. Brown walls.
Yeah.
Okay. Nine bedrooms, and 3 house cleaners.
The cleaners did come today, actually. Yeah. Anyway, stop. Okay. So one of the things that we find, and you know this too, because you have an interview podcast, there's always the bros who are like, I made $1 million overnight and here's my success story and yada, yada.
Yeah.
And what we don't want our podcast to be is about that. We want the Andy on YouTube going through his financials and like, I'm shit scared. I effed up here. This is what's going on. We want that stuff because 1, misery loves company. 2, I feel like most people think they're struggling more than other people because they hear the success stories only and they're like, why isn't this working for me? I had a former client I talked to a couple of weeks ago and she's like, Tass, it's been 6 months since I went out on my own. I'm freaking out because I'm nowhere near what I thought I would get. And it's a lot harder than I imagined it would be.
Yeah.
Right. And so I want to talk to people like her to say, it's not roses for everybody. So what does that look like? And I want to know, like you had a lot of bumps on the road. Let's talk about some of those bumps. We call it the confessional. Okay. So like your biggest failure going out on your own, what was it?
Biggest failure?
Or like your, oh shit, what am I doing moment?
Yeah. I mean, dude, where to start? I would say we talked about the niching thing earlier. Doing that sooner would have been very helpful. One of the things my mentor said was, Chris, you'll never have certainty in business, especially if you're a solo business, but the closest you can get is clarity. So knowing who you are and just having like a sense of direction of what, like the actions in the day that are leading to the outcomes that you want. You know, like it's really hard when there's nobody telling you what to do to try and figure that out on your own. Like, okay, putting together a schedule. Obviously there's fires that you have to put on the client side, but earlier recognizing like what my actual like highest leverage activities were, things like biz dev, making content on LinkedIn, building relationships, those like counterintuitively, it's not like as business progresses, like what is hard changes. Like in the beginning, it was like all the stuff I talked about, like, having to put on presentations and not really knowing what I was talking about in front of other people, getting up early and going to those events and doing that every week. That's one type of hard. But then, as you progress and you get more insight into like what moves a business forward, it's like things like hard conversations or like having to look for contractors or just sitting down and like sending emails, and building relationships. Like that's what it transitions to. But I would say funny failures because, if we want to have more of a better content. The first project I took on freelance was a $2,000 project. It was like the month after I got laid off. And I thought I was like, holy shit, I made it. Like this is like my rent and more for the month. And I have a screenshot. I sent a picture to my dad. I was like I'm rich, and long story short, I really dropped the ball on that project because it was not a good fit client, very high expectations. And this is what you learn. And I learned it the very hard way, is like how to set expectations in a client relationship, how to demonstrate expertise and to avoid scope creep, which, are lessons that you have to kind of, it's like touching the pan to learn it's hot sort of thing. But I mean, so I ended up refunding like that entire project because I felt so bad, and she actually made me cry because she was so mean.
Oh no!
She was mean.
So
she was mean.
Yeah.
Like what? Like how? Like what? Okay. So it was for like a logo and brand, and a landing page. And she had like an online business that was like it sold cookbooks to like an older population, and I was just so far out of my league with like presenting concepts, and it was a really bad, and she sent a loom back like reviewing the drafts of the concepts and did not mince any words. So I haven't talked about that in a really long time, and I've tried to forget about it. But that stuff teaches you like who good fit clients are. And like if you are proactive about looking back at like, hey, these are the clients who are the combination of the best paying, the ones that you enjoyed the work, that were the most profitable, the ones where they really appreciated and valued the work too, is just kind of like sets you on that barometer towards finding more of those, and it helps you reposition as well. So, but yeah, plenty of fun failures like that. That's probably the worst one, but yeah.
ICP is not the right.
The authors of cookbooks. For sure.
You can tell I'm like genuinely embarrassed because I like start fidgeting and stuff. But yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. You're open with financial. So this is a question that we pose to people, and we leave it up to them whether they want to answer or not, which so far everyone has answered. So yay. But when you started your $1,200 deal and where you are right now, what is the difference if you're open to sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all on the YouTube channel. So I'll say it here too. But actually, one of the most viral posts I had on LinkedIn was literally just me saying how much I made my first 6 months, like lining it out and doing the annoying LinkedIn thing where you put one on every line. So yeah, the first year we did top line like 40,000. So from like March to December of 2024 was like 40,000, like really cutting my teeth, getting started and all this stuff. Second year, 2025, really diligent on documenting the journey, started to get some systems in place, niche down to only doing Webflow. And we hit just 200K for the year. And like
big jump.
Started delegating work and getting my shit together. And then on this year so far, we're on about the same pace at 200.
Okay.
Investing more into contractors and team members. So a little bit more is going back into the business. But I have a stretch goal to hit 250 this year.
Amazing.
Very nice.
Thank you for sharing that. And the important thing to note is, one, a lot of businesses coming through referrals. Two, a lot of local businesses. Is that kind of your primary, is local?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're event planning right now.
Yeah.
But like, well, I have this like inclination too, is like, you always think you'll run out of like local marketers, and that could be very true in a smaller area. But Columbus is awesome. And there's like, meeting people in person is such a big advantage that we have, especially me, when I have no like balance. Like I can drive anywhere. I did for 3 years. So that's been a big, like, that's like, if I look at like, what's my competitive advantage, it's the ability to do that. So that's meeting people in person and not being salesy, just saying like, hey, this is who I am and what I do. A lot of referrals have come from that. And that's like, I can't speak highly enough to that, because like I said, 70% of business comes from referrals directly. So yeah, if you are in a city, like there's a huge value. Like I listened to like, I think it was Andrew Huberman's podcast where he talked about like the value of living in a city when you're young and just being the available person, for lack of better terms. It's not always the best thing, but that's just so good for you long term. And now that I'm here, it'll be a lot easier. So can't speak highly.
So we always talk about like B2B is such a small world, but like the local community is much smaller and more like tight knit. Like the owner of the dentist down the road knows the owner of the restaurant down the road. Like they all know each other. And if you really dig into it, a lot of these places are owned by the same people and families. And so like once you start to get into like that, they're all like friends and just, it's so crazy. They're all hanging out.
Well, even like online is a small world too, because I first heard Tass on Dave Gerhardt's show, and I listened to like all 3 of her appearances on there. And then I was like, holy shit, she lives 30 minutes away. So I was like, hey, but yeah, like even then, and Eric Jacobson is someone else that was on that show too. And he lives in Dublin too. So it's like, you really start to like see what's available.
You know, the Hatch FM guy?
Yes.
He lives in Columbus. The guy who does all of Dave's podcasts and editing and stuff. Hatch FM. That guy. And he's really connected. And it's kind of crazy too, because like say you sell Carfagna's, which is like a really famous local Italian place here, and they have multiple. Then I went to a fundraiser, totally unrelated, and Carfagna's was sponsoring. I saw Abby, the wife of the owner, she's over there. But then her son or her daughter and my son go to the same gymnastics. Like, it's just, I know all these people. The realtors, like my realtor friend's like, oh yeah, I sold their house for them. Everybody knows each other, and that's it. So one of the things that we had been talking about, by we, I mean, my paid partner, Graham, and I, we were like, hey, we should start tapping into some local stuff, because now with AI, it's been harder to like offer something similar like I do for B2B tech companies to someone who's like the roofing company, because the roofing company like isn't going to pay me maybe $20,000 or something. I don't know. But he told me, he's like, one of my longest standing clients for Google Ads has been this garage door company. They spend $6,000-$7,000 a month paying him to run ads. All he cares about is that I just get quotes, and that's it. There's no attribution. There's no weekly meetings. There's none of the stuff. And he's like, he's been my client for years and years and years. And he's like, he always told me, he's like, is there like a landing page deal you can offer to these? And I always said no. I was like, no, it's just not worth my time. It's too small. Now maybe it is a thing that we could do as kind of like a small little arm. Tim's face is already going to
squash this a little bit.
He's going to shred my dream.
Yeah.
Tell me.
I don't want to completely squash it. I hear you. I think it makes a lot of sense for Graham.
Yeah.
I think it's much easier to transfer from B2B, because it's Google Ads, say specifically Google Ads. It's pretty easy it's just keywords, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying Google Ads is easy. I'm just saying like the targeting is pretty easy. Like all right, we're going to do roofing company, Rochester, New York. Boom. Like you're just going to find leads. I used to do this stuff. All right. New York City lawyer, injury lawyer. Boom. Landing page is a little different.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, you could, but your lane is B2B. Do you know anything about roofing? Do you know about like any of that?
I'm a consumer of roofing.
Okay. Do you know? All right. Let's talk about HVAC. Do you know like tax, like how that works?
We have talked, right? We have talked about painting quotes, how hard it is. As we know, I've been looking for a CPA. I have 10 meetings booked now because I put a post out after me trying for 2 years, submitting forms to all the CPAs. I talked to one of the CPAs today. You know what he tells me? He's like, ooh, our industry, we're notorious for not checking that stuff. Our websites aren't set up. Don't look at my website. I haven't changed it in 6 years. All of this stuff. You know how easy it would be to just set up a website flow real quick? And you could do it probably.
That's how I met my CPA. So I have a CPA in Dublin, built his website, and he does my taxes for free now.
You could do a trade. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What is it?
Just to be clear, I don't mean you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You could do it. You could use AI and talk about it. I'm saying it goes against what you usually do. Like you'd be completely different business model.
Yes.
Because what you do is like, scroll, like, it's not about the demo. It's not about getting the call, the sale right there.
It would have to be a pivot. Yes. It's a B2C
These
pivot.
guys, it's simple. It's roofing, Dublin, Ohio.
Yeah.
Talk to sales. There is nothing else. It's pretty simple. You can templatize it, but no one's going to pay your prices, what I'm saying.
Yes, exactly. That's the part. But I think that now I can reduce the time to value because things can move a lot faster than it did 2 years ago.
Again, different business.
I think
you could do it though. You could in theory do that. Like I'm looking at right now, roofing Rochester, New York, literally just a roof picture, talk to sales or book an estimate. That's what it is. Roof picture, book an estimate. I typed it in. I'm looking for roofing Rochester, New York. Boom. I'm talking to someone.
Yeah. And maybe it's not the mom and pop, and Andy would probably attest to this. It may not be the mom and pop, the single kind of location here. Someone like, I keep using Carfanias because they have multiple locations, family, well-to-do, well-off, whatever. They would be willing to pay in the thousands at least for something decently substantial.
Because they got multiple locations, right?
Multiple, yeah. So it'll be one of those businesses that's like,
multi-location ones for sure.
Yeah. Like I know the guy who used to be the head of marketing at Apex HVAC. He had $1 million budget.
Yeah. That's small actually for those. I used to work at the biggest HVAC company around here. Big bucks. So they're spending
big money.
They make tons of money. The richest person I've ever met in my entire life was the owner of a roofing company in Florida because of hurricanes. My guy is rich. Yeah.
Dude, that's like the next generation of, in like 5 years, electricians and plumbers are going to be making more than anyone in B2B.
Trade jobs are going to go way up. Yeah. So I think it's that. And I used to work at an NBC TV station. We only sold advertising to local businesses, and local businesses would spend 5, 6, 10, 20. If you're an auto dealership, you're spending like millions a month, right? Just on local advertising for auto. And they didn't care. And we didn't even have reporting to give back to them. But like, you reached, 200 households with women 35 to 50. That's how we used to do reporting. They don't give a shit about attribution. They just want coverage, distribution. I cannot miss a lead. I cannot miss a quote. That's the kind of model that they have in their brains. They don't want to do calls. They don't care to know anything about being educated on website attribution. None of that. They want it done. They want quotes. That's it. That's all they want.
I think you hate it.
Well, it's a good sliding scale because they're like people who are problem aware, but they know nothing about the solution. So if you become like, if you get them as a client, it's just like total entrustment.
Yeah.
So and B2B, there's a lot of marketers who know a little bit about everything and just a little bit enough to maybe push back a little bit too much. Not too much, but push back a little bit. And that's where it makes your life easier when your clients are people who trust you to do the full thing end to end.
There was, some of these CPAs asked me to show them some of the stuff, and I told Tim about this vibe coded dashboard I made on my HQ, and it has all my expenditures, it has all my revenue, all of that stuff. So when they asked me, hey, where do you keep track of everything? I'm like, oh, I look at this thing and I pull it up, and they're like, what what platform is this? What system is this? I'm like, oh no, I just like vibe coded it. And they're like, what do you mean vibe coded? They're like, they have no idea. And so when I'm showing them, they're like, wait, is this pulling from like QuickBooks? They just like could not fathom that this thing existed that I created. And so they were asking like, can I get access to this thing? Can I see your stuff from here? And anyway, so there's just a whole world, that's just not in our little bubble on LinkedIn.
Yes, but if my CPA told me he was vibe coding a QuickBooks thing, I'm not doing it.
No. But I told them, I was like, well, accuracy can be a big problem, but the vibe coding, here's my back end. And my back end is not vibe coded, the stuff that's all in Coda, and that's what my dashboard's pulling from. So you can reference the numbers and cross verify.
The research in 10 years from people getting arrested because their taxes were off from vibe coders is going to be wild.
It's going to be wild. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, this is back. I want to go back to Andy. Okay. Because this is about him, not about us and our roofing tangents. Yeah. Okay. Last few moments. Okay. So you 40,000 to 200. There's a huge jump there. There's a huge amount of growth there, which congrats, by the way. That's amazing. I think there's something to be said for everybody wants to be I'm making millions and stuff. There are so many people, marketers even, who would be completely happy with making $200,000 to $300,000 top line revenue and chilling, having a business that's just I'm not trying to sell to anybody. Are you trying to sell? Is that your goal, is to get acquired and exit? I mean, you have high ambitions.
So, I mean, yes, but I think either way, I know everyone in this audience should read the book Built to Sell by Warlow. Yeah.
That's a good book.
Even if you don't plan to sell your business, building it in the right way. And it's a lot of what the consultant is helping me with now is having documentation and seeing what our differentiators are and really leaning into those and really, building the relationships. Because a lot of times acquisitions are strategic and they're not always, especially for digital services businesses. I just interviewed a lady on the podcast who exited her marketing agency to a private equity company. And it was a strategic earnout. They wanted the audience, they wanted the IP that the agency had built, they wanted some of the assets in terms of the physical locations. So a lot of times acquisitions are not nearly as elegant as they may seem. So, but in the meantime, just building the best practices are productive from the beginning, whether or not you do sell, because it just makes everything easier, forces you to get your systems in place and kind of gets you out of that freelancer mindset while you build. So,
okay. All right. I mean, I'm not surprised. See, for me, the goal is different. I'm very time based. I want to feel like I'm working 3 days a week. I want to make enough of an income where I feel comfortable, my family's comfortable, and I just get to F around and do stuff like this all the time. Mm-hmm. Tim, do you have a goal of selling? I guess we've never ever talked about that.
I could never sell.
Why not?
It's just me. It's literally, my business is surrounded by me.
Dude.
If I sold, I would have to work for them. You understand that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have to do, and earn out. That's
you see what I'm saying? Look, you pay me $1 million a year. Oh, yeah, I'm in. Sounds great. 20 hours a week, $1 million a year. Boom. Contract signed. Done. Give me full autonomy. But yeah, it's my whole sales pitch too. It's you work with me. Yeah. I just talked to head of sales call. He's like, the reason I'm talking to you is because you said that I wouldn't be set off to free, someone that's not me, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of, I mean, I just can't right now. I wouldn't be able to. I'd have to work for them. And I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Unless they paid me.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think you have a system. I don't know how the business is in terms of systems, but you have a great niche. From the outside, it's very appealing. Recurring revenue, niche offer, established market. I mean, whether or not LinkedIn for B2B SaaS is going to be has a moat around it. I mean, tech as a whole is a disruptive industry. But from the outside, it would be, you could definitely do it. I'm not saying you should because it's yours, but yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I do have great systems. I have it's not super complicated. It's my POV. I can basically give that to someone else. I think just being completely honest, if someone was wanting to buy, the issue is I'm pretty sure all of my clients would just fire. If I was gone, they would just fire you. So you don't have that recurring revenue already, because part of my thing is if something does go wrong, what's the pivot? And that pivot goes into so many different streams.
Yeah.
Also, just the way, I'm not saying I'm the greatest person ever, but
They're buying into your brand. That's how they came in.
That's
They
the
want
sales
that.
pitch, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I could sell some of the templates and all the stuff that the dashboards, my Cloud MCP dashboards right now.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. It's just, I'd love to sell. It'd be great. Maybe. Well, I don't know.
Okay. All right. You think on that. We'll talk about it next time.
Nah, I'm over it.
Okay. Couple rapid fire questions. We're going to close out. Okay.
Let's do it.
Number one, most overrated advice on going out on your own.
You can work whenever you want.
Statement.
What a mic drop. That is so true. You are all
That
the
was
time.
easy. Yeah. No, that's not true.
But that one was good. What is an underrated piece of advice you'd give someone? You've had a very different path from most people who've been on here. So what would you tell someone?
Ask for experiences, not share experiences, not advice, because the wrong advice applied, even with the best intentions, can be very detrimental. Like there's,
True.
I mean, I'm the first person to ask for advice. Like, hey, what would you do here? But take that with the grain of the other person's perspective and like their headwinds and tailwinds, everything that they have going on. Because I mean, you like everything has caveats, you know, like I'm in a situation where I can invest a lot into the business. I have a lot of time. I don't have kids. I have a family. Even the revenue stats and stuff like that. I don't know if I would have been able to do that if I had, like I said, those forcing functions of balance. So like the advice that I would give could be very detrimental to someone in that scenario. Whereas, you know, if someone had a different path than me, they could be giving me advice. So I was like, I'm always very diligent on like sharing what I did, provided with the context, and people can see the contrast or take from it what they will. But yeah, like share experiences and not advice directly is a big one.
I love that. Obviously, the amount of success you've had over the last couple of years, all your hustling has really paid off. You weren't in-house that long, but is there ever a dream state where you're like, man, it would just be really nice to just have worked for someone else right now? Do you ever have those thoughts?
Yeah. You know, it's a lot of it is trying to create, you know, peace of mind. You know, I was raised in a household where my father is a police chief for 3 decades. And mother was a librarian and school teacher. So like two very go work for the man, like employee driven jobs, government jobs. That is kind of like what I talked about earlier, is that peace of mind of like the reassurance that I'm doing the right thing in the day and you're not crazy. Like even when you're like in-house or working among other people who are kind of doing the same thing as you, maybe they're in other departments, there's just a peace of mind that like, okay, these other people are here. I'm in the right spot. You know, I can't be that far off track. Even now I struggle with this, is like when my parents ask me, what do? I know it's the ultimate positioning exercise, is like telling your parents what you do. Because I've told them so many times, but I wonder, like my mother comes from a very well-to-do family. And I wonder what she tells her 5 sisters when they say, hey, what's Andy up to? So it was really cool to like share that I just got a house, or some of the more traditional like societal success metrics.
Like, Mom, I'm not just like, you know, doing some rinky dink thing. Like, this is legit. It's paying the bills. I'm still adulting.
Yes.
And it may not have been this traditional path that you had in mind for me.
Yeah, exactly. So like if people are going out on their own, like do the best you can to not care what people think, and in the best way possible, obviously, because a lot of those people who are giving you advice probably have your best intentions at heart. But like, you know, I open up Instagram and I see like all my friends are getting married or have kids, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing wrong here? So you kind of have to like take it with your own situation and not let, you know, other people's metrics of success like really try and deter what you're working hard to build. So that would be for sure.
Well, in my eyes, as a person who is married, has kids, was in-house, worked for the man for way longer than I worked for myself, take it from me that you're doing awesome. And marriage is not a metric of success unless you want it to be. So like my husband always knew he wanted to get married, have kids, wanted to be coach dad. Me, all my friends will tell you we're surprised she got married and that she had a kid, let alone 2 freaking kids. I remember my best friend, when we FaceTimed her the first time I got pregnant, she was like, you like on purpose? And I said, yes, yep. We tried for this baby and we are pregnant now. She's like, oh, okay, I guess congratulations. And then when we had the second one, we FaceTimed her, she's like, again? So it was just really funny because I was voted most likely to be CEO never would have been like, she's going to be Susie Homemaker in the burbs with a picket fence in freaking Ohio. That would have never been on the bingo card. But I did the CEO thing also while doing the other thing. So that can change. But right now, you are exactly where you need to be in life. And I'm proud of you, Andy. This is great. Like, I love this story. It's been my favorite story so far. Don't tell everybody else.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's on recorded, so.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully. All right. Any other questions before we head out? Tim?
No.
Okay. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on and staying on a little bit extra. I can't wait to throw our event together next year.
Yep.
Yeah, B2B Outcasts. We're still kind of noodling on the name.
Yeah, in progress.
In progress. So, all right. Columbus, Ohio, OH.
IO, baby.
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys too.
Going solo isn't always easy. There are client wins, red flags, and moments where you feel on top of the world, and moments where you question everything. But for us, it's been worth it.
We're not selling you a dream. We're sharing real stories, real numbers, and the mindset shifts it takes to build your own thing, whatever that looks like for you. Subscribe to the Marketer's Exit and send it to a friend who's this close to making a move.